purchased last week, I believe it was. We closed on it.
Okay. All right. So the track record's there. So the banker and the mortgage, they can use those as stories to do that. Okay. So now, what would you have done different if this was your first one and you just had your single family track record? Because I think a lot of people here are on the call and have been in that position. Hey, listen, I don't have 3 buildings like you, Grant. How do I, and it's all great advice. How would you say them doing that without that experience?
Well, I mean, it depend on the level that you want to be involved with it. Partnering up on, on a syndication, like with you on the GP side would be, general partner side would be, limited partner side, the LP side, sorry, would be an option. But what I would suggest, if you have that history with single families, that doesn't mean you can't jump to apartments. You can do that, no problem. What I did was, again, I networked, I went to events, I met the broker. He was referred to me actually by another friend of mine. We were having lunch and my friend and the broker, the commercial broker, the lender, were good friends. And he said, hey, call, because they've seen what I've done and they've seen that my wife and I are doing what we say. So he said, call my friend. He really, he helps a lot of people out. And, we all knew the same people and, I called him, I met him at events. So really it's building that track record with all the people in this space because, people want to help you. They really do. And they'll help you if they see that you're trustworthy, you pay people back, you do what you say, and you're around them so people can get to know you. It's a small, very small group of people in this space that are active and that are doing things. So believe me, yeah, people like to help. People do events like this for free, Pat. I mean, you're doing this and just to help people.
Yeah, and that's true. They do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And that's how you meet those people. And that's why I started this, because obviously at the time when I started a year ago, there really wasn't events like this, to talk multifamily, to talk in depth in that, because what you're hitting on is issues that people are running into. You've already eclipse some of those problems you talked about earlier, right? There's somebody who doesn't have something. How do they get over that to the next thing? And that's what you're looking for in a partner, or just in somebody to talk to. Say, listen, I got this 8 unit. What do I do with it? How do I proceed? Well, do this, do that, do this. I mean, that's the way to do it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like anything else. I mean, don't be, if someone hasn't even started, don't be intimidated by apartments or anything like that. It's just like anything. So focus on one single family, if that's what you're going to do, if that's your goal, and buy a house. But you got to start somewhere. We didn't buy an apartment and knew what to do. Well, I had a background in management, but I'm saying we did. Let's say this: we didn't buy a single family home, and we knew what to do. We did it all. We were pulling our hair out, going, what now? And so that's when we started to go to meetings. We didn't have any money, and I met my friend, and he said, you got to buy some houses with no mortgages. Get them any way you can. And so we did the credit cards, we did the personal loans, and then we, like I said, we would package them together and
roll them up to the next one.
And roll them into a commercial loan. Yep. And then buy 3 more. So there's always going to be, no matter where you're at, you're always going to go, well, how am I going to get the money? I mean, that's everyone's problem. Even people a lot farther ahead of me, they run into that too. They go, well, where am I going to get it? But the thing is, they know they're going to get it. They've established a track record. There's people that want to work with them, want a return on their money. And they know they're going to get it, but that's what it is. No matter where you're starting out, these problems don't get easier; they get bigger. You just learn how to handle them a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So don't ever think investing gets easier. You get bigger problems. Believe me.
Yeah, and obviously the bigger rewards as well too. But anything worthwhile, right? And anything in life is going to have a challenge, but the learning that happens during that challenge, right? The couple challenges you had during your 203 and 2011, those challenges made you stronger to deal with what you're dealing with now, right? For increasing income or dealing with tenants, that all happens, right? And then sometimes people want to do that, want to be active like you. Sometimes people want to be passive, and be passive. It doesn't really matter, but there's a lot of different ways to do real estate. So that's awesome that you share that.
Yeah, and that 2003 through is like 2007, I think it was over with. That taught me how to deal with tenants. Okay, I wouldn't trade that in for anything. I know everybody says that. I wouldn't trade it in because I have no choice anyway. But it was a painful learning experience. But I learned that I can treat people fairly and still expect them to live up to their end of the bargain. So I did learn that there. So that was pretty invaluable. I heard all the excuses. It kind of prepared me for our next step in like 2015. So it was very helpful. And then, I don't know if you want me to touch on I wanted to talk about the first apartment we bought too.
Sure, go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
So I know I'm jumping all around here, so sorry.
That's okay.
So in like 2017, my wife was doing some math and she's like, we'd have to own like, let's say if we make $200 a door on a home, because everything has a mortgage on it, right? After all your repairs, your property management fee, everything, taxes, if we clear 200 a door, we'd have to own 50 doors, 50 homes to make 10,000 a month, right? And we were like, that's a lot of houses. We had 11 at that point. We're like, oh my gosh. And I'm killing myself after work, going around doing all this. And I'm like, we have to get how many more? Because we got a nice high number. We thought, 10,000 a month, we'd be able to retire, and go on vacation and actually live a little above our means. And that's when we said, okay, we've had enough of this. We're going to have to go into apartments. I found an apartment off market. And this is the first one. It's a 20 unit. And I found it off market. I actually knew the owner. I went to him, approached him. It took about a year and a half for us to get it to close. Long story on that one. That one was getting lost to taxes. We contacted him. We told him 2 weeks before he was losing it, you're going to lose this. We were already under contract on it. We said, you're going to lose it. You need to pay 50 grand now. And, luckily he was able to, kept it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. This was just crazy. The lender, he paid his mortgage off back in 2011 or whatever it was on that 20 unit, the person we bought it from.
Okay.
His lender went out of business. So he had no paperwork saying that it was paid off. He didn't have a release.
Oh my God. He didn't have a release from the mortgage. Oh my gosh.
No. So we had to go to court to fight that. The lawyer he used took a lot of time for some reason. And it just took a long time to close. We bought that one. And so it was, just imagine, this is our first deal and we're just pulling our hair out, just going, please, Lord, let this thing close. And it was the way we got those funds was from a blanket loan. We did a commercial loan. We refinanced 3 homes into a commercial loan. That gave us about $125,000. We were buying it on a land contract from him.
Okay.
So we didn't have all the bank fees, which was great.
Let's explain a land contract for those that don't understand a land contract, if you don't mind.
Got it. Yeah, that's just basically owner financing. So he owned it outright. So he basically said, I'll give you guys a mortgage on it. And you work the terms out with him. We told him, how about this? He said, his partner is older and doesn't want to wait 10 years to get his money. Okay. So we said, okay, how about this? Give us 28 months and we'll refinance it and get a commercial loan on it and pay you back. And he said, okay, that's fine. I said, how about 5% interest? He said, that's great. And we said, how about a 30-year amortization? And that was what really helped us, that amortization. That meant our payment was a little lower. Mm-hmm. So that helped us out. So we went to bat like day one on that building. And I was already in property management at this point. So I was already managing apartments, so we knew what to do. I mean, we're on it that day. We went to the building the day we closed and started talking to tenants, handing out, putting signs up and everything. But what we did there, that was a big lift. That needed everything. A roof, it needed, everything. The carpeting, common area carpeting was 60 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, no one had done anything on that for probably 30 years. No maintenance or just maintenance. And it was
That's
really
what they call a value add, and that's what we all look for, right? So you say that, and we like, you want those. You don't want the shiny pennies that you're going to pay premium for. That's awesome.
Yeah, so 625 for 20 units. So 16 months later, only 16 months, we refinanced. We took a loan out. That's another whole story. So it was during COVID, and we only wanted a loan for 800,000. So we said, because that would give us a check for $300,000. Okay, so we refinanced. The appraiser came back and said, this is a value of knowing your market too. The appraiser came back and said, actually, the building's only worth, I forget what he said, 850, 900,000 or something like that, which would have just blown our numbers and wouldn't have given us what we wanted. So I looked at the appraisal and he used a cap rate. Okay. And the cap rate of his appraisal was an 8.5. And then I looked at the buildings he was comparing them to. And one of the buildings was in a distressed area of Wayne. And that cap rate was 8.2. So he's saying our building in Trenton was at a higher cap rate than that one. So in the other two buildings he used, I was managing. I had managed them. My boss bought them and they were in complete disrepair when he bought them. So he's comparing our upgraded property to properties that were just a mess when they were purchased. So those aren't comparables. Okay. So what I did was I went back to, again, the broker we use, commercial broker, and I wrote him a long email. We discussed it, how we were going to handle this. He said, write it all down. And the one thing I did was I went and I showed the crime index compared with Wayne and Trenton. And I don't remember the exact number, but let's say it's average is 200 in the United States. The lower the number, I think it is, the better. Let's say Wayne was at, forgive me if I'm wrong, let's say Wayne was at 250, okay? Trenton was at 77, the crime index. So very, very low. So I said to them, how can you compare these two properties in these two locations? They're not the same. And then also I had appraisals of the other properties because I reached out to my boss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's like, I'll give you everything. Here's the appraisal. Here's all the money I spent on the property. So we sent all that over to the appraiser and said, you're wrong. Wow. And thank goodness. Now he didn't have to do it. We had him right there. I mean, it was in the middle of COVID. Everyone was scared. I understand. So that's why it came in so bad. But he did look at it and he came back with a value of $1,030,000.
Holy Christmas. So, okay.
Yeah. So it was a big difference. So that gave us our loan for $800,000. That gave us a check for $300,000. And that gave us, now we had money to put back into the building. Now, if you're a real estate investor, you're going, yeah, 300 grand. Yeah. I know what he did with it. We didn't spend it. We didn't go on vacation, right? We bought more property. That's just what you do.
Put it back in the business. Yeah.
Real estate investors are always broke, right? They're always cash poor. So we put some money back into that property and we had some money. Now it's time to go look for another building. Well, I'd become a realtor by then, full time. I'd quit the property management job, become a realtor. And this is just how life leads you in directions, right? Mm-hmm. And, I was making zero income as a realtor to start, right? I mean, it's a commission based.
Get the relationships, yeah.
Yeah. So luckily people know me that I'm in real estate, so it's been good. But so what happened was I had a client and, we had the money in the bank, we're looking for a building. And I had a client that said, we were looking for homes and she said, you know what, I think I'm just going to I think I'm just going to stay in the house that I'm renting. Would you do me a favor? Would you call my landlord and see if he'll let me buy the home? And I said, yeah. And she said, you know what? He's also got apartments. I said, yeah, that's great. I'd love to call
Give me his number.
Yeah, because she knew too what we did, So I called him and I said, we talked and he said, yeah, that's fine. He said, listen, I'm not paying a commission or whatever. I said, no problem. You guys can do your own thing. I want what's best for you guys. Do your own thing. I'll just back away. And then I said, you know what? I hear you own apartments too. And he said, yeah, I'm actually thinking of selling one. I said, well, great. When can I look at it? We went and looked at it that night. My wife and I, we had a purchase agreement for him. It was either the next day or 2 days later. And he was, a little blown away. Like, wow, this is moving a little quick.
Whoa.
Yeah. But we gave him the number he wanted. We had to argue with not argue. We had to go back and forth with another group. But we ended up getting that building. That was an 11 unit. That one's in Rockwood. So that was our second purchase. The thing with that one, we had the drains camera, which I always recommend. But there were some issues there that didn't get caught. And we had to actually when we were all done, it ended up probably being around $27,000 in plumbing repairs, breaking up the floor. The building appraised, for $470. I think we bought it for $430. So we were good, but we had all these repairs to do. So when you factor that in, we paid about the right price, I guess. But that was pretty much an eye opener. I learned a ton about plumbing. We were in Detroit for my birthday at Shinola Hotel. My wife and I, we figured, yeah, we'll take a night and go celebrate my birthday. 10:30, we get a call from a tenant.
Your birthday's over.
Yeah, and just debris coming up into the tub,
Oh, geez. Okay.
It was it's sad, you don't want to own properties like that. So for the next month and a half, it was extremely difficult getting different plumbers out, trying to find the problem. Nobody could find it. Finally, they did find it. And, what the plumber did was he ran water from everywhere so that when he put his camera in, because there was bellies in the line and everyone would just say, it's just a little belly. Well, he ran water and when he all that clear water, the camera could now see underwater and he could see the bottom of the pipe was missing. It had fallen down. So,
okay.
So that's how we found it, luckily. And he got it fixed for us. So we, knock on wood, haven't had that problem, but it probably happened 4 times in the first month and a half that we owned the property. So it was, that one was tough.
But even with all those headaches that you've had, and let's say learning experience, would you ever trade it and go back and get a W-2 job?
Well, no, here, and here's the thing. Let me ask everyone this. What time do you got to wake up tomorrow? Right? I don't have to. I have to wake up, don't get me wrong, but
yes,
we can turn the alarm off. My wife and I eat breakfast. We sat for an hour outside today and drank coffee. After lunch, we eat lunch together. Around scheduling our days, but those are things we schedule for us to spend time with each other.
Definitely.
And it is. We're not, where we want to be. 42 units, 41 units does not make you rich. But no, we wouldn't change it for anything. It is the freedom to do basically what we want and not have to ask a boss for permission, which was always my biggest goal in life. Was I just didn't like having a boss. So it worked out great for me.
It worked out awesome. That is awesome. Well, gosh, man, thank you for sharing. Let's do this. Let's open it up for questions, if you don't mind. If anybody's got any questions, anything, because you've hit on so many gold nuggets here. Anybody want to ask a question? You can, let's see, raise your hand, or why don't you just go ahead and shout it out, and we'll do it that way. Don't be bashful now. nobody's got a question. You got to be kidding me.
Question.
Go right ahead.
When you got your first multi-units and you had to go in there and work with the people, how did you set it up to get all their contact information, or did you have to kind of go knock on doors to get it after you got the place?
That's a great question. So I'll speak with just about every building we buy so far. They don't have all their things in order. The one we just bought, one of the tenants doesn't even have a lease. We didn't get the leases until I don't know when. They're missing some of them, some of the pages. They don't have any contact information. The 8 unit we just bought, we had 0 contact information. So what we did was we created an estoppel letter, a letter stating your name, what your rent is, what your security deposit is, what's your late fee, do you have any pets, what's your cell phone, your email address. And basically, after we closed, we took that there, explained we're the new management company, and we're the new management company, and we'd like to go over this with you, make sure this is all correct. And, we'll have them fill it out and fill all their information and sign it. And basically that's what we do when we go there, right after we close.
Okay. When you close on it, when you're working with the person, do you guys talk about deposits and factor that in, or is that just something you kind of, when they move out, you got to kind of cover it yourself?
So that all goes through the title company, right? So the old owner owes us all their security deposits and rents, prorated rents. So they will actually pay that to us. And what we did on this one was we had them separate security deposits and prorated rents. Normally they'll deduct it from your closing fees, but we had so much money to put down. We said, we want that in a separate check because that gave us a starting operating account. I forget how much it was, $6,000, and then maybe $6,000 in security deposits, right? So now we already have security deposits, because what happens if you don't do it that way, you do it any way you want that makes sense for you. But if you get it deducted when your tenants move out, you have to come up with their security deposits because you still owe it to them, and it was taken out at closing. So really you were compensated for it. So the tenants, those are their security deposits. When they move out, we give them their security deposits back. And I'll be honest with you, some of these units, when they move out, they're in such bad shape. The units, we end up basically just about giving them their security deposit back because it's so hard it was so neglected. It's hard to say, oh, you did this or you did that. I mean, there is wear and tear is an understatement. So, right or wrong, we give them their security deposit back, unless, there's deliberate damage or things like that. But, most of these buildings are in pretty rough shape.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, it also there's a cost too. Do you just give it to them, let them leave peacefully? Obviously, if they're loading up drywall in their pickup truck when they're leaving, you want to stop it. But again, it's kind of it's a business decision, right? You just want to leave them, let them go, let them walk out. Great, because that money you spend, give them, maybe it'll help them down the road.
So we, and it's because it's hard to break down what they did, that's why you give it back. I mean, it is a business. I'm not saying, give everybody security deposit back that does damage. That's not it at all. But one thing we did do during COVID, weren't really sure what to do like everyone else, right? So we had a guy come to us. We knew he was a problem. He was inherited. We would never place him in the building, but he came with the building. And he was paying his rent, but he was getting Goodfellas to pay his rent. 1 month he'd get the church to pay his rent. He didn't work. He had some things he was doing that might not have been the best. I don't know, but we knew it was going to be a problem. We knew that eventually this was going to run out because people would call us and say, "Hey, we're only paying his rent once." And I said, "Well, then that's fine. I don't think you should have to pay him." But we knew it would be a problem. And during COVID, he came to us and said, I can't pay. We said, fine, we'll work with you. We gave him a break for a month. And then the next month he came back and said, I can't pay you. We said, well, we need you to give us a little bit. And he said, I can't pay you anything. And we said, okay, that's that's going to be a problem. So now you can't evict anybody. You can't, the courts aren't open. We're going through this whole process. So my wife said, why don't we give him cash for keys? I said, all right, that's a great idea. So we told him, I forget how much we gave him. We said, listen, you owe us, I forget how much, $1,500. He ended up owing us $2,000 in the end. And we said, you owe us all this money. You're not paying. You're not going to be able to pay. So why don't you move out? We're going to give you, we gave him maybe $750, $800 to move. And he's like, you're just going to give it to you. You said, yeah, we won't sue you. We won't go after the money. If you move in a week, I forget what the timeline was, but you get out in a week, we'll give you $800. So that's what we did to get him out of there, because otherwise, I mean, he could still be there. I don't know. I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you go to court. So we told him that, you know, and it was funny. I mean, I think the lady was from Goodfellas or somebody was trying to help him. She was there in the apartment, and I stopped, hi, introduced myself. She said, well, I'm here to make sure that he gets his money, all of his money. I said, ma'am, he doesn't have any money. We're giving him this. This isn't his. I don't have to give him anything. This is something we're trying to do to help him so that he can move. You know, I just thought it was funny. It's just perception and what was explained to her and the actual reality of the situation. You know, it's there's always two sides to every story. And I was just a little taken aback, like, wait a minute. It's not the situation, but it worked out. He was able to leave. I hope he, you know, we wish him well. But we needed to get him out of there, and that's how we did it. You know, it's not great. The landlord always ends up, you know, I shouldn't say always, but you know, the landlord ends up, you know, losing out on some money. But in our situation, we got him out of there. I forget what he was paying, maybe $575. We rented it for $800, I think. And we have a fantastic tenant in there. Fantastic. One of the best tenants we've asked for. So, you know, it is what it is, but that's how that was that story.
That's all part of the business, right?
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good. One of those tenants that's eventually going to have to go, but it's been hanging on for quite a while. So.
Yeah. And it's not something you want to have to go through. And you know what I mean? We're compassionate with our tenants. You know, we have a lot of respect. We have good relationships with them. But it's also a business. I mean, and that's what it is. So, you know, it's a business. You know, here was the contract we signed and we need to abide by it. You know, I mean, our rent's due on the 1st, it's late on the 2nd. And that's it. So, you know, and they understand that if you want to live in our communities, our apartment buildings, that's what it is. We recently just went to non-smoking. We're in the transitional phases of that, but that's working out real well for us. But again, it's, you know, I wanted to, on here, I see Pat too. I just wanted to go over a couple of questions that you had asked me and I had written down.
Okay. We'll get to you, Hartford. Hang on a minute, man.
It said, explain how you incentivize your tenants in a win-win for everybody. I just thought that was a great question. I just wanted to touch on it because you know, we're doing the parking lot, we're doing the common areas, and we're doing the landscaping in front. And I just had a conversation with a tenant last night that said, I don't care about any of that. I spend zero time out there, right? I spend time in my unit. And I said, well, tell me about your unit. He's like, well, the last owner didn't fix this. I got a water leak under my sink, my bathroom fan. I've been missing a vent. I got this, that, blah, 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 blah. Went on and on and on. I said, listen, here's the great thing. We're going to fix